I often wonder why we're here. Like, not in my town or in this state, but why we are here at all. It's a really broad question, and one that I think about in detail, just kind of out of the blue. It just hits me sometimes. And years ago, before I had medication on board, I would be flooded with these thoughts of, questioning existence. And, I would watch people, cars drive through the intersection and look at these people in their faces and think, in 2 years they could be dead, or in 10 years they could die of cancer, or, in 5 minutes they might crash that car and die. And I saw them for a split second. I saw their spark of life for a split second. And these thoughts would just overwhelm me to the point where I would be breathing rapidly and my heart would be racing, and I would be convinced that my heart was going to explode in my body. Because I'd follow these trains of thought without wanting to. It was like I was forced. My brain would make me do this. And other examples are, seeing people and wondering why our existence, and then, seeing how fleeting life is, and then looking inward at my own. I would often, and I still do, I'm actually having a day like that today, but I would think, what is my significance? Well, I don't have any. It would be really egotistical of me, selfish and distorted thinking, to think that my existence matters. And so I would have, every single day I went through that. My existence doesn't matter. Everything I do, going to work, going to college is, just going through the motions of what's normal in society. But in the end, it doesn't mean anything. And this is why I guess I was getting a philosophy degree, to help me figure out how to actually be a human in a human world and exist amongst other humans who seem to have it all together. And I'm not talking like all together that they've got their house and their car and the kids. And no, like just being able to function in daily life. Why brush my teeth? Why get up? Why do any of this? I mean, I would still do it, but every single motion in life was just brutal. Walking. Anyway, I'm glad those days are over, but I get glimpses of those days here and there, and I'm reminded of them. And I'm reminded that, that's still my truth. I still believe that stuff. And, the medication has dulled those feelings, where I'm not having a, panic attack every 2 seconds about, whether I'm going to get struck by lightning or hit by a car or whatever. All that is still there, and it's very real. And I think it is a reality. I think it's a raw reality, let's say. Some people are just set into this world, and they're just stripped of all of those defenses. Either they show up that way, or they're conditioned, or they go through certain experiences that take away those. And it's funny because you would think, someone who goes through trauma, and they do, people who go through trauma develop coping mechanisms to just survive everyday life. And I did that, and I've got lots of coping mechanisms to get through everyday life. But one of those coping mechanisms was also feeling or realizing my insignificance. Because if I realize my insignificance, then I'll never be let down. I'll never, when I don't amount to anything, I won't shed a tear. Because why would that matter if I amount to anything? It doesn't. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't. So this is a mess of thoughts that I've just put out here, right? I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry. This is why I haven't made a podcast in a while, because I don't know. I don't know if anyone needs to hear any of this shit, honestly. Like, what service am I doing? However, I'm doing it anyway. And here's the story of my life. I put myself through college. I got a job. I worked for the city of Burlington. I put myself through college at UVM. And I was doing this all before I discovered, anti-anxiety medication. Long before I ever even considered it. And so while I was going through these horrible thoughts of, I'll give you an example. Let's say, okay, so I was taking my philosophy courses, and I was learning how to function in those classes and raise my voice when I needed to. Like bringing up or just participating in conversation, in discussion and debate. I was learning how to do that for the first time in my philosophy courses. Learning how to argue. Learning that arguing does not mean conflict or negative conflict. Or, and conflict doesn't mean negativity. So I was learning that all then as a young adult. But I would walk away with the thoughts, and I remember walking home from class and thinking in my head, it was so real. And it's hard to conjure it back up, thank goodness. But I thought that the cars that were driving down the road were attempting to hit me. That people hated me. Like, just humanity hated me. It sounds really crazy. It's crazy to me to even say it. But I remember those feelings like they were yesterday. And to go through life thinking that your existence is just, I don't know, I don't have a word for it. But just thinking that you are disposable. In fact, people are trying to dispose of you. And while I was going through all of those really tough feelings and days, I was still getting up and going to work. I was walking to work. I would get up at 5 a.m. and walk 2 miles to work. The next day I'd get up and walk to school. And, every day I would be getting up, going to do what I needed to do because I was forcing myself to do it, even though I thought people were trying to kill me while I was walking down the road. And to me, now thinking about that was courageous. That was brave. That's unbelievable. I can't get across to you how painful those thoughts and feelings were, how paralyzed I was by them. And yet at the same time, I would put myself into situations. For instance, joining the military. I'd show up at drill every weekend, not paranoid, but fucking scared, frightened. I'm around soldiers that have been doing this for years. And I'm there, like not knowing what the fuck I'm doing. But knowing that I had to do something. So I worked through all those years by forcing myself into activities and, things to keep me going. And, now, today, I look back on that and I'm like, holy shit. That shit's amazing. That's downright amazing. And I would never say to anybody, push through it. You're gonna get over this. Those thoughts of, those suicidal thoughts, just keep going, push through it. It'll pass. Happiness is a choice. That's a boatload of bullshit. I personally have been gifted with this weird tenacity that despite feelings of my or thinking that my body is going to fail me and thinking that someone's going to run me over on purpose, despite those feelings, I still got up and went to work. I mean, I couldn't breathe most days. And I see that now, like, how did I do that? There was no choice, honestly. And I have a back library of podcasts that you can go listen to, and you can find out why, or some of my history, and I should probably like repost those. I haven't listened to them in a while. I haven't really attended to them, because this is hard. What I'm doing now is the same thing that I did then. I'm pushing myself to do something despite feelings of, I feel better about myself. I feel a lot better about myself. I'm actually quite confident these days. But I still struggle with those feelings of nihilism and that, everything is pointless and, this is a false reality that we live in. The lines on the parking lot right now that I'm looking at, that's a collective decision to follow those rules. And very easily we can collectively decide to not follow those rules. And I know that is that's a possibility every day, all day. I don't know. Living in my brain is a real fun time. I encourage you to come inside for a little bit and join me in this playground of chaos. But yeah, that's all I have for today. I just wanted to tell you, give you a little insight into my happy brain and how I function. And I'm actually quite happy. And I would not give up this disturbing way of being in the world because it has actually granted me perspective, a perspective that is very unique and deserves some attention because, if you can see things from a different angle, it adds so much depth to the world we live in. And I tend to see things from a different angle, and I'm able to see things from other people's angles. And that has given me this weird sort of, I'm going to use this word, but it is not my word that I have used for myself. It is a word that has been used to describe what I'm able to do. And it's a weird sort of genius. And I think it's an anomaly. It's an anomaly that I've been granted through certain experiences. And no, it can't be, I don't know, it can't be mapped. And I'm not trying to map it. I'm just discovering or just recognizing that it's there and it's in my head and it needs to come out and it needs to be shared. And not always. What happens is this weird genius, this weird way of looking at the world is what keeps me from succeeding. And so I've asked recently for help from the people who want to help me move forward on some projects. I've asked for their help because I realize, and I realize this in others, and if I can realize it in others, I need to start seeing it in myself. Like I'm incapable of getting out what I need to get out without somebody to help, because I could be a virtuoso, but if I can't get myself, up out of a ball in the corner, then, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what talents I have. They're lost. So, that said, I gotta go in the grocery store and buy a bottle of wine, so I can survive another day. All right, thanks for listening. I really appreciate your support and your tolerance of me. Super cool. All right, gotta go. Bye.